Alright, in this video I will show you how to use one of the most important and also most complex features of Pug, and that are extents. So with extents we will be able to use the same base layout for every single page that we want to render. So right now we have our base template kind of finished, so with a nice header and a nice footer. And so now let's actually start filling out its content. Now, of course, we want to load different content for different pages. And to start, we want to have an overview page with all the tours, and then a page with all the tour details for one specific tour. Alright? So let's now implement some routes for both of these pages. Okay? And I'm going to do that right here below the first one that we already created. Okay? So /overview. All right. And then something very similar to before. And again, a bit later, actually in the next video, we will then put these routes into their own separate file. So render. And now on this overview page, we will actually want to render a template called overview. Okay. So that doesn't yet exist. And so let's now quickly go ahead and create one. So overview.pug. And actually let's also pass in some data. And we will pass in the title of the page, which in this case will say all tours. Okay, now let's just grab this code and copy it for the tour. So we also want a route for a specific tour again. And here we will want to have a template, which is also called tour. And then the title of that, for now, let's do it again, the forest hiker. Tour. Okay, so for now this is just a placeholder, and of course a bit later we will then actually make this dynamic, because at this point we are still kind of learning how Pug really works. Okay. Anyway, let's now create that tour template as well, and that's it. Okay, and now with these two new templates here done, this is what we're going to do. So in each of these templates, and in this case here, the overview, we only want to put the content for that specific page. So we want no footer here and no header and none of the stuff that we have in the base. So again, really just the content for the overview page. And so that's exactly what we're going to put in this file. And then we will basically inject this content into the base template, which we can call the parent template. Okay? And this process is then called extending. So whenever the overview template is rendered, we then take the base template and fill it up with the content of this file, and so we extend it. All right? And so here is how we implement that. So first off, in the base, we need to put a block. Okay? And I will actually do that here. So let's delete all of this, and here, put a block. And that block, I'm going to call it content. Then inside that block, we can actually also have some content. So let's just put a h1 here, but this content will then later be overwritten. Okay, but anyway, let's put it here just as a placeholder, basically. So this is a placeholder heading. Okay, so we have our block here, and now we can go to our overview page and say that we want to extend our base template. So extend base. Or actually that's called extends. So this file extends the base file. Okay? And of course, if this one here would be called, for example, index.pug, then here we would say extends index. Okay? Now, what exactly is the content that's going to be extended in the base template? Well, that's whatever we put in the content block. So also here, we create a block called content. And then in there, we can, as always, put our content. And so let's just say this is the tour overview. And so here we basically redefine the content block that is in the base. Okay, so again, we have this block here, which is called content. And now by putting the same content block right here in this page, which is then extending the base, we are basically redefining that block. Now each file can only extend one other file. Okay, so we can only extend the base here, but we can have different blocks in each of the files. So we could have a block for the head here as well, and then we could extend that also in the overview template. And actually, we will do that a bit later. But for now, of course, let's keep it simple. Okay, does this make sense? Let's now go ahead and actually do the same thing here. So this extends the base layout. And what exactly does it extend? Well, it will extend the content block. And so this one will put on the H1, this is the tour detail page. All right. So before testing this, let's quickly recap what we just did. So we want to use this base template here kind of as our starting point. So as a skeleton that has all the HTML stuff like this head and also the header and the footer, but not the specific content for each page. Then in each of these pages here, we only have the content for that page itself, okay? And we can do that because we can basically inject this content here into the parent base template by using extend. So basically think of this as the opposite of including. So basically here, this template included two parent templates. So basically this template here included two child templates. So the header and the footer. Okay, so again, the base is the parent and the header and the footer are the children. And so here the parent included the children. But with extends, it's the other way around, where basically the children, as we can say, so we can kind of say that the overview is a child as well of the base, but here it's the child that kind of includes the base. So basically everything that's around this block content, okay? So you can imagine that all of this code here, all of this which is not the block content, is then copied right into this file, okay? So that's a nice way of imagining how this works, right? And so that allows us to then use here in our routes the overview and the tour templates instead of using base, but still, of course, using all of this HTML that we have in here. Okay, so I hope that makes sense now. Let's actually go ahead and try this out. So I'm just going to copy the URL. And so now let's write overview. And so indeed, we get the H1, which says this is the tour overview. And actually, let's also use the title variable that we pass into these templates. So remember that here we have the title all tours on the overview, and then on the tour, we have the forest hiker. And so let's actually put that on the title. And in fact, we can actually do that right here in the base template. So when right here in the overview, we extend the base template basically still has access to the locals. So to the variables that we pass into the template. And so here we can do basically what we did before. So interpolation with the variable, so with the local. So all we need to do is to put the title here like this. And if we now reload, then you see all tours here on top. Okay, now let's try tour. And so this is the tour detail page. And up here you see the forest hiker tour. Okay, now if we load this one, well, then we should get that placeholder that we put in the block. Remember that? And indeed, this is the placeholder heading. Great. So this is a very powerful and very important mechanism for us to understand and to use for all of the templates that we're going to build in the rest of the section. All right. Now in the next video, we will then finally clean up a little bit this mess that we have here. and refactor all of this code here into some different files.